Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. UCLA goes with DeShaun Foster as their next head coach heading into the 2024 season. Deal we were fired up about this hire, injecting some energy into this program. But the next conversation we wanted to have was, who are they going to hire around DeShaun Foster? We want to focus on this offensive coordinator position that UCLA has been really uptight and close to the vest about candidates for this role. Want to have two different conversations. One, give you guys some candidates that we think would be really good fits at UCLA, but also have that conversation of what kind of offensive coordinator do you want kind of tag teaming with DeShaun Foster, leading this team into 2024. I kind of have two different ideas. One, you could go with a younger OC that gets it done on the recruiting trail, kind of going with that. We're injecting energy into this program, but you also could go a different route where you go out and get maybe a veteran offensive coordinator that's been a head coach at different spots, that's been around the block a few times to help DeShaun Foster manage this program, as DeShaun Foster, a very green, very new head coach running this UCLA program. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. It has been a blast covering this program as Chip Kelly's left. This is a fun new chapter for this UCLA program. We've been talking a lot about it. The amount of support from the UCLA fans has been absolutely amazing. Two things. One, if you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, would love to hear some of your candidates, some of your ideas for this next offensive coordinator position for UCLA. Dill, I'm going to give you the tee box, and I'll ask you this question. You're UCLA, you're DeShaun Foster, and you're trying to decide what type of offensive coordinator you want. Are you going, before we get into the actual candidates that we have, you see one on the screen, Dill, are you going with a younger, more energetic recruiting coordinator? Are you going with maybe more of a veteran coordinator that's been around the block a few times?
I mean, for me, I think I'm going all young, all energy. I think UCLA is in such a unique position in terms of what they were left with and how Chip Kelly had it, where, again, no excitement, no engagement, nobody. He's not a guy who elicits any emotion from like a fan base. People just don't. He's not like wildly likable. He's a really smart coach, but everything else, he just didn't have it. I'm all energy, all juice. Like, let's get the program back and get people excited about it. Cause that to me is like, you have nothing if you don't have that.
That's kind of where I'm leaning to. And right when Chip Kelly left UCLA and UCLA was looking for their head coach, the UCLA fans remember both of us kind of banging the table for, go get a young head coach that's going to give some energy into this program. And they went out and did that, right? DeShaun Foster, they're taking a risk. DeShaun Foster never had been a head coach before, never even has been a coordinator before, but is well respected and loved in that UCLA locker room. Obviously played his football for UCLA. That's the type of hire that we wanted to see them go out and make. Now, to play a little devil's advocate, I'll say this. I probably lean your direction too, just kind of pushing your chips in to this youth energy movement at UCLA. But I also understand that argument that, hey, you have DeShaun Foster that's never been a head coach before, that's never even been a coordinator before, now taking over a Power 5 program heading into the Big Ten. I can see the argument where, all right, we went really young, we went youthful, we went kind of green at the head coach position. Maybe you go out and surround DeShaun Foster with an offensive coordinator that has a lot of experience, that's been a head coach before. We have a candidate for that as well. But let's dive in to probably my favorite candidate for UCLA's OC job. I think a lot of UCLA fans are fired up about this one too. Brenan Maran did a phenomenal job at UNLV as their OC in 2023. Dill, I know you've dove into some tape for that UNLV program and Brenan Maran's offense. What do you got for us on that front?
I mean, for me, I would have taken Brenan Maran as my head coach at UCLA. That's how much I think of him. Again, where he's been, guys love him. When he was at Texas, I mean, he was part of that. Like, he was brought in to kind of rejuvenate what they were doing at that wide receiver spot and being able to get more talent and being able to get some energy into that room. He did it. You go to UNLV, you be the primary play caller. You do an excellent job at it. So for me with Brenan Maran, I don't think, like, maybe if he wasn't a play caller, you have some questions about him and DeShaun Foster because, well, then you have no real proven play callers. But again, given what he did at UNLV under a defensive head coach in Barry Odom, I just think you have no question about what he can do on that side of the ball. And to me, it's like, I mean, I would have taken him as my head coach. That's kind of what I think about him, what I think he could bring to UCLA.
Brenan Maran's going to be a head coach someday. The track record and the resume is so impressive. I'd even go back before he went to Texas at Pitt as their wide receivers coach, developing a wide receiver like Jordan Addison. Brenan Maran is an elite recruiter. He's an elite player developer. And that's the two boxes that you want to check with your offensive coordinator. They're focusing in on that UNLV time. He's only 36 years old. This was his first time calling plays at the college football level. UNLV was 0-6, 2-10, 5-7. Brenan Maran joins this program as the OC. They put up 33.7 points per game. That was top 20 in the country. Jada Maava experiences tremendous development at the quarterback position, and they go 9-3. Brenan Maran, to me, you look at the two boxes that you want to see checked. One, are you a good player developer or a good play caller? That's a massive box check from that year you saw at UNLV. You go back to the recruiting. You just scroll down and look at some of the wide receivers that Brenan Maran recruited at his time at Texas. Jonte Cook, Ryan Niblett, DeAndre Moore. He checks that box as well. Yes, you would be going very youthful with Brenan Maran and DeShaun Foster, but could you think of a more and that's the theme of this UCLA program for me, exciting. Could you think of a more exciting combination than DeShaun Foster and Brenan Maran leading this program on the offensive side of the football going into the Big Ten?
And to me, it's like I get like the idea of youth, but I think there's like different levels of youth. I mean, Brenan Maran's an ultra experienced guy at this point because, again, he really rose up quickly. He didn't stick around as a position coach for forever. He's been a coordinator at a couple other spots, and he's kind of got his system in place. That's the offense he likes to run. He likes to use kind of unique formations, obviously, and the ball comes out quick. That's kind of the basis of what he does. And at a place like UCLA, where, again, you kind of got to redevelop what's there. You got to kind of refill the cupboards, if you will. I think that offense is a good way to kind of usher that in. And then as they bring that talent back up to where it probably should be as they go into the Big Ten, maybe Brenan Maran or whoever is there can kind of readjust it and run something different. But I think his scheme is a perfect fit right now because it's very much designed not relying on having like Joe Moore award-winning offensive lines. It's more reliant on ball out quickly, playing on time.
And I mean, with Brenan Maran, I think two things. One, you noted it best. He took a UNLV team that was not very talented and had a top 20 offense in scoring. But I also think you give him 3 years at UCLA, not only are you going to see an offense that can put up points on the board, you're going to see that talent increase because Brenan Maran is one of the best recruiters across the country, has experience kind of across the country on the recruiting trail. Brenan Maran's my pick. I think this would be a no-brainer if you can get him to the UCLA program. But I do want to offer up another candidate that kind of came to my mind in terms of kind of going the opposite end of the spectrum. Okay, we hired DeShaun Foster. We got a very youthful coach that doesn't have a ton of experience running a program. Why don't you go and get a guy in Joe Morehead, who is a sitting head coach at Akron, a program that is just kind of middling. It's not a very attractive spot. I feel like you could go and convince Joe Morehead to leave being a head coach at Akron, go move out to LA, run this offense. But you take a look at Joe Morehead's track record. I mean, was a head coach at Mississippi State, an SEC program, a head coach at Akron right now, was an OC at both Oregon and Penn State, obviously experience in the Big Ten, kind of being pivotal. You look at DeShaun Foster being a young, inexperienced head coach. It would be a nice addition to grab a guy like Joe Morehead who has a ton of experience and can kind of help DeShaun Foster run this UCLA program heading into that 2024.
Yeah, and especially having been at like some real monsters, if you will. I mean, at Oregon, at Penn State. I mean, he has kind of dealt with that top end of college football, knows what it kind of takes. Again, maybe not proven as the head coach. Maybe he wouldn't bring the same juice as he would at that spot. But again, as an offensive coordinator, he's been really, really good wherever he's been.
That's kind of what I totally agree. He kind of reminds me of Chip Kelly a little bit, whereas he's an offensive mastermind in my mind, but I don't think he's a great program manager, right? And when you're hiring a head coach, you need a program manager. You need a guy that can foster relationships, go out and fundraise. That's not really Joe Morehead's game. He's a kind of like Chip Kelly. Again, I think a lot of UCLA fans would say, I would take Chip Kelly as my OC, just don't want him as a head coach. Joe Morehead, having head coach experience, having multiple stops at Power 5 programs as the offensive coordinator, this guy that's been around the block at a lot of different places in a lot of different conferences. This one would make a lot of sense too. I'd ask UCLA fans, focusing less on Brenan Maran versus Joe Morehead and more on the conversation of, do you want a young OC who gets it done on the recruiting trail, kind of double down on the youth and excitement, or would you want to pivot to, all right, we just went youth and excitement at the head coach spot. Do we want more an experienced offensive coordinator that's going to be able to help Deshawn Foster manage this program? I think it's a really interesting conversation. Would love to hear the UCLA fans and their opinions on this one. We'll continue to cover this story as the news and the names come out, but you haven't seen too many names come out yet, but I'm expecting some news relatively shortly. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.